Good morning, welcome everyone. I'm Councillor Steve Pitt, I'm the leader of the Council and also Cabinet Member for Cultural Regeneration and Economic Development. Before we start, a little bit of housekeeping information. If the continuous fire alarm does sound, please evacuate the room and the public gallery by the stairwells. Do not attempt to use the lifts. Please assemble at Queen Victoria's statue in Guildhall Square. In order to comply with the Guildhall Trust Fire Marshal regulations, anyone who signed in at the Guildhall reception desk should sign out when leaving the building at the end of today's meeting. Everyone speaking via a microphone will be recorded and broadcast on the website, including any people making deputations. Members of the press and public are also permitted to record the meeting on the understanding it neither disrupts the meeting nor records those stating explicitly that they do not wish to be recorded. Please use the microphones when you are speaking and remember to switch them off when you're finished. Okay, I've introduced myself, so we'll now go around the room starting with Lisa.
Lisa Gallagher, Democratic Services.
Mary Vallely, Councillor for Cosham and Wimmering.
Councillor Russell Simpson, Hillsey Ward.
Claire Liddell, Portsmouth Library and Archives Service.
Is that not working? Is that not? Oh, there we go. Ross Fairweather, the General Manager of the D-Day Story.
Claire Looney, Commissioning and Partnership Manager.
Stephanie Parker, Employment and Skills Manager.
Jane Lemaire, Head of Economic Development and Skills.
Good morning everyone and a huge welcome to you all. There are no apologies today, so we'll move on to item 2. Any declarations of interest, members? No. Okay, in that case we now proceed to item 3 on the agenda, and that's Claire Looney to present on twinning and international relations update.
Councillor Pitt, thank you very much. The purpose of the report is to provide members with a short update on some of the international activity that has been going on with our existing twin and sister cities, and to inform members of the future decision-making process which will be taking place around twinning activities as well. And finally, to consider an officer request to formalise an existing post so there's proper support in place to enable the activities to be well supported going forwards. As members will see from the paper, there's been a lot of activity happening during the past financial year. But the principal purpose of this paper is to ensure that members understand that we're requesting a change in the decision-making process with the re-establishment or the reworking of the Twinning Advisory Group, which was set up in 2011, met until 2015, but then for reasons that we can't really account for, went into a sort of period of abeyance. We wish to restart that group, which has been discussed at length with Councillor Pitt, and we hope, therefore, that there will be a more open and transparent process on the activities that are occurring through a route that the group can then, because it will have cross-party representation on the group, so all members will be informed about what's happening and they will have an opportunity to consider and make suggestions up to the Cabinet for any future twin and sister city links and requests. The other purpose of the report is to outline the fact that we do have a person who's been working on supporting this activity. She works extremely diligently and she has also managed to secure an external funding to enable some of the projects to occur, but that post is not official and we would really like to nominate it as a proper official post. We think the 0.6 suggestion is a sensible reflection of the time needed and also the time needed to secure external funding, because I should highlight that there is no money directly allocated for twinning and sister city activities. I'd be very happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thanks Claire. Any questions, Mary? No? Russell? No? A couple of comments from me. I pushed for this to be revitalised, because there wasn't a clear process about how we went around about establishing twinning relationships with people. And I'm very alive to the fact that any proposal needs to be supported cross-party. We can't have twinning arrangements that are going to be opposed by groups, potentially attract demonstrations, etc., for a whole variety of different reasons, because it has to be a positive relationship from the outset and something that we can support ongoing. So we did do a piece of work previously and refocused twinning around economic development in particular for the post-Brexit world, and that was the pretty much the sole purpose in particular of the Halifax twinning, and that was a discussion that was led by somebody with a strong economic development background and links on both sides of the Atlantic, and that relationship continues to move forward positively, but almost entirely focused around economic development work. It's nice to, in fact, Mayor Mike Savage did say if it was only about cultural links, no, because they don't have the bandwidth for that, and we don't either. The only recent exception to a strong economic development focus was the Falkland Islands twinning, but that was linked to Portsmouth's very strong links to the Falkland Islands because of the war in 1982, and it was also in the approach to the 40th anniversary. But nevertheless, we have had a series of economic discussions with them, and they have lent into council officers' advice, and we've lent into our contacts with them because they also own the Gosport Ferry through their company. And they do maintain regular links with us and give us bulletin updates. So there's two examples of where we've twinned recently, both of which had a really clear rationale. Because, as has been pointed out by Claire, quite rightly, there is no officer capacity, or there will be, but there hasn't been any dedicated officer capacity to deal with this. It's fallen between Claire and Carol and Jane and her team, and that's not fair or correct because that's not part of their job descriptions, and they've been picking this up and keeping it going for quite a few years without any proper structure around it in terms of an officer who is the go-to person. So we're seeking to correct that, and then hopefully the Twinning Advisory Group will be able to look at any requests that do come in or suggestions that come up and make a proper assessment of those, and then make a recommendation back to Cabinet that has cross-party support and a clear rationale. Does that make sense? But I'm happy to take any questions.
How are we going to fund it?
So we've done some jiggling within the cash limit to be because it's not a full-time post. It's 0.6, Claire. So we've done some jiggling within the cash limit to enable us to refocus on this, purely because it's become the #1 priority to have staff focus on it, because there's a lot of activity and no resource, and there's more requests coming in, and members are bringing suggestions to full council meetings, etc., for us to explore twinning, and we can't do that unless we've got somebody to work on it. Okay, everyone happy? Yeah, in that case, thanks very much, Claire, and we'll move on to item 4 on the agenda, which is Bookfest 2024, and Claire's presenting.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. So this report is to update the portfolio holder on the activities of Bookfest 2024. The festival started in 2010 and is an annual festival presenting a wide range of author talks, book events and writing workshops for both children and adults. The festival's gone from strength to strength over the years and now features between 35 and 45 events over a 3-week period, and it starts in mid-February. The 2024 festival, pleased to report, has been a particular success with high audience attendance and satisfaction, and several exciting celebrity authors visiting the city. Ticket sales were up 50% on 2023, and we think this could be due to several factors: a more intuitive online ticket sales website. That same ticket company sent promotional emails and featured Bookfest heavily on their website. Increased social media coverage. The two big name authors in Dame Sheila Hancock and John Agard boosted sales, as did the popular Children's Week events, particularly the Zog Character Tour and the Dinosaur events. And people were making a big return to in-person events following the pandemic. In terms of the demographic, Bookfest continues to attract a high number of audiences in the 60-plus age category. They're drawn to events with well-known authors, local history events and writing workshops. A higher proportion of the 41 to 50 age category attended this year's festival compared to previous years. Not always an easy age group to attract to book events due to their busy lifestyles and commitments, and it appears that a number in this age group attended the Sheila Hancock and John Agard events. Large proportion of attendees were small children due to the ongoing popularity of Children's Week events. We continue to work hard to attract more attendees in the 11 to 20 and 21 to 30 age categories. Approximately 75% of attendees lived in the PO1 to PO6 postcode, making this very much a local book festival, and this reflects the reach of the publicity, which is mostly limited to the city itself due to cost reasons. However, we did see some attendees from Gosport, Fareham, Chichester, Havant and Petersfield and beyond, showing that audiences will travel for good events. Approximately 70% of attendees identified themselves as female. That's similar to previous year's festivals. We did find the events about music and the John Agard event attracted more males. Participants self-described their ethnicity on the evaluation forms, with almost 75% identifying as British. It would be useful in future years to obtain more detailed feedback, as we're keen to broaden our reach. And then in terms of feedback, it was almost all overwhelmingly positive. I had some really nice quotes from people about how much they enjoy the festival. The Children's Week is very well supported, and we plan to build on that. And where requestments for improvements were made was around advertising the festival earlier. This is dependent on having event details confirmed by authors and publishers with plenty of notice. Making a phone number available for booking queries, which we will do, and layout and room improvements. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. 14 years, it's amazing, isn't it? It's definitely continuing to grow in stature, and with the opportunity we've got next year, which I know officers are already involved with the focus on a year of literature, with Portsmouth Creates working with you on that, it's going to be a bit special next year, I think. Members, any questions?
Well done, again. Brilliant. My one question is about where these things take place. I'd like to know where they take place, and if we could bring some up north, I'd really love that, and I think spread it around. I know you've been up to Cosham Library and things like that, and that's great, but I'd like to know where they all take place. Thanks. Well done.
Yeah, we could circulate a breakdown of venues from this year, couldn't we? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
it'd be really good as well. Because is it a pre-booked event? So is that how you know the data on the PO1 to PO6 box? You know, you're saying for Portsmouth,
Yes.
is it so so it's ticketed? Okay. Yeah, I think very much sharing Councillor Valladay's. Anything that improves literacy across the whole city is good for the city. And I we acknowledge that we have libraries, which is a very fortunate place to be in. So, to add something to that is only a good thing. But yeah, it's may it continue.
Cool. Claire, did you want to come back in on anything?
No, that's fine, thank you.
Cool. Okay. In that case, thank you very much. Taking us to item 5, Skills and Labour Market Strategy 2020-2025 with the 2023 update, and that's Jane and Steph.
Okay, good morning everybody. So this report is the third review of the Skills and Labour Market Strategy, as Steve said, covering the 2023 year. Yeah, okay. Oh, okay. So just a reminder that whilst this is a PCC strategy, it is a collaborative one, and working with our various stakeholders across the city, so Shaping Portsmouth, the business community, our skills providers, and other organisations such as the Hive, FSB, and what was the Solent LEP. So this report looks at the key benchmark data available for the year 2023, and overall and really positively we are seeing a continuing strong development of that baseline data from where recovery started really for us in 2022. Some key examples are Portsmouth residents with no qualifications is on the decrease, our residents holding level 4 and above is on the increase, and we are ahead of national averages with things like that. So we are seeing improvements with those who are moving into being economically active. Having said that, we do have 2 more years. We are aware of the significant challenges with things like apprenticeships that we need to tackle. There is still some real disparity between our wards. So whilst we're seeing improvement on an overall level, we are aware that we need to be doing some much more focused work. Yeah, so the overall picture is positive. We're pleased with the progress and we're happy with the collaborative work in that it's bringing.
Thanks, Steph. Members, any questions, comments? No, we'll pick up something through DEM services in terms of how the printing happens. Can you make a note of that, Lisa?
My question is, you talked about different wards having different results. Is that in here?
It's not in the key
Because I'd really like to see that.
yeah, that's no problem, yeah.
Really good though. really good that we're above average as well, since we're not educationally.
Russell, anything from you? It's a very sedate meeting this morning. Okay, thanks for the update. When do we start work on the 2025 to or 2026 to 2030 piece? Is that in 2020? Is that next year?
Yeah, I mean, we potentially would have started that work this year, but because of the significant changes we're seeing with the Solent LEP going and the Solent Growth Partnership establishing, we'll go through the first piece of work in terms of the economic development strategy across that broader area, and then we'll align the skills piece with that. So it might be next year we come back with a standard review. It might be we'll be launching into a more up-to-date sort of version. There is a lot to celebrate in this report, and it is positive. We do still have the disparities between wards, and we'll be delighted to go through those with you. We've seen a very dramatic change on the level 4 data over the last year. We have challenged that data because although I do think we've seen a real good increase, for us to now be above the national average is delightful, but a problem solved that we have had for about 20 years. So I think ONS have reassured us that it is valid data. We'll continue to watch it because as officers and as local skills providers, we have some concerns about that hasn't been felt at a sort of local level, but we know that we have seen some really good upturn, and we know that providers like the university are seeing a real increase in the higher apprenticeships, and we'll continue to celebrate and promote and support that through this process.
And can we just point out how that's happened exactly, so we keep doing it and keep fronting it, you know?
Absolutely, and we'll
Brilliant.
continue to. We're continuing trying to get to the bottom of it. I was hoping that when we saw the increase, I could come to you and tell you the joyous increase that we've seen with each provider. We aren't getting that confirmed narrative at the moment, but we continue to push on it, and we continue to challenge ONS on it to make sure that we are always promoting the best opportunities for our residents.
Well done, Jen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Reports noted, so thank you both for being here this morning. Item 6, D-Day story, D-Day 80 results. This says 8- results on here. I think it's meant to be 80. Activity and partnership summary. Over to Ross.
Thank you, Councillor Pitt. So this is an information-only report which provides an update on activity from the D-Day story around the 80th anniversary of D-Day. So starting with some results from the museum. So across the 2 weeks around the anniversary, the museum welcomed 7,807 ticketed visitors to the museum, which is a 194% increase on the same 2 weeks in the previous year. Within that, we also welcomed 2,781 group visitors, which is just under 250% up on the same week last year, which is really important because we've had a real emphasis on growing the groups market, which is important because there's lots of opportunity for repeat visits within that market. So some fantastic figures there. And the museum also took, between admissions and retail income, over £100,000 in revenue across those 2 weeks, which obviously is great because that goes back into supporting the museum. So some fantastic numbers there. We also placed in the months running up to the anniversary a real importance on growing partnerships with both organisations around the city and more widely as well. So we developed a number of partnerships with Hampshire Top Attractions, the Queen's Hotel, Holiday Inn, the News, developing ticketing partnerships for customers of those organisations and other promotions as well. We also worked with Shaping Portsmouth to welcome the cruise ambassadors for familiarisation visits to the museum. So they were able to promote to people arriving in the city what the museum had to offer. And also works with organisations such as the South Downs National Park and Art Fund more widely. Again, just getting out the message of what the museum had to offer, and that's obviously reflected back in the number of people that have come to visit us. We've also done a lot of filming and a lot of work with different media organisations, and I've listed all of those in the report, but a couple to highlight in particular which were really successful. We worked closely with the BBC to film a D-Day special of the Antiques Roadshow, which went out during the anniversary week, which was filmed both in Normandy and in the UK exclusively at the museum, which included a number of items from the museum's collection, including the landing craft and the embroidery, which was fantastic, and was also filmed outside around the museum as well, sort of showcasing Southsea in the process. We also worked with another team from the BBC to welcome Jeremy Vine to the museum on D-Day itself, so on the 6th of June, and he broadcast his show live from the museum on that day, and also included an interview with David Eisenhower, who is the grandson of former President Eisenhower, so that was great to have that as part of the show. And then we also filmed an episode of Songs of Praise at the museum as well, which included an interview with a veteran on board landing craft tank 774. So lots of exposure from the museum over the months leading up to the museum, and a lot of that was broadcast during the 2 weeks around the anniversary. And a lot of those broadcasters as well, not only local and national broadcasters, but also global ones as well, so some fantastic exposure for the museum. We also hosted the 100 Days to Go event in conjunction with the MOD, which featured the Normandy Memorial Wall, where we added a number of plaques to that. And following that, we've seen a significant increase in people buying commemorative plaques on the wall. So now over 700 plaques and names commemorated on the wall. And all of those donations go back into supporting the museum as well. So that's seen a significant increase in profile there as well. So moving on to specific activity throughout the 2 weeks around the anniversary, we welcomed 92 young cadets to the museum for a series of workshops, which was supported by funding from the Connaught Trust. So that was a number of young people who aged between 10 and 17 and had some fantastic feedback around that, and that supports our ongoing objective for engaging younger people in the story of D-Day. We launched a new display at the museum centred around the great escaper Bernie Jordan, who is the veteran who escaped his care home for the 70th anniversary of D-Day 10 years ago. So we currently have his medals on display in the museum, and that's seen lots of interest. On the 3rd of June, we welcomed 9 Normandy veterans to the museum for an event in conjunction with the Spirit of Normandy Trust. And there were various parts to that day, but one highlight was part of the day where young school children were able to meet with the veterans in private, and that's the first time that Spirit of Normandy Trust have ever done that with an organisation in the UK, so that was a real highlight and a real special moment. We worked with South Western Railway to name a train after the museum, and that is now travelling up and down the south of England. We were able to secure a stand inside the main event on Southsea Common, and we also on the weekend after the anniversary did a live stream on landing craft tank 7074 with an organisation called Wargaming, which has a really high following online, which again is important about engaging with younger people. We carried out our annual event with Charity 307 Squadron Project, which is an event which commemorates the role of Polish troops during D-Day. And once again, we've achieved accreditation from Visit England and have been nominated for a Best Told Story Award, which only the very best attractions get nominated for. So we'll find out later in the year if we've been successful with that. And then finally, 2 long year projects which we've done. So D-Day in 80 Objects has been an online project which has recognised 80 objects from different museums' collections to showcase the Normandy campaign. So working in collaboration with the National Museum of the Royal Navy, the Imperial War Museum, National Army Museum and the RAF Museum. So those objects have been showcased on our website and on social media. There's also been a book that's been written, which is available in all of those museums' shops. And also we worked with Stagecoach to have a bus which was promoting that as well. And then finally, our schools programme, which is incredibly important. So whenever you talk to Normandy veterans, the one thing they are really key on is that the story of D-Day is not forgotten. So we've run a sponsorship programme, which is allowing young people to come and visit the museum for free and go through our education programme. So far we've raised just under £50,000, which will allow 1,400 people to come and visit the museum for free, and that includes covering transport costs as well, because when we talk to schools, that's one of the key challenges as well, and we really want that to be a legacy piece moving forward. So yeah, lots of activity, but we're really pleased with the success of that scene.
Thanks, Ross. He sent me the update over 2 or 3 weeks ago and said, would you like this turned into an update paper for portfolio? And I said, yes, definitely. Because when you look through the amount of stuff that's gone on here, and the media attention, the filming that's taken place at the D-Day story, the visits that it's hosted, all the all-age stuff, the young people's education programme, and also a particular shout out to Kathy Hakes for pulling together D-Day and 80 Objects, working with international museums around that, and the launch on HMS Belfast, which I wasn't going to miss, but I have to say it was a bit of an ordeal because it was my back was still bad. I just about made it there and back, but it was worth it because to see and hear D-Day story and Portsmouth museums being talked about in some quite prestigious company in such a positive way was really amazing. And Russell, I know you're having conversations about schools' access to stuff, so the teacher comment on page 9 of the report will be of particular interest to you. And you're chomping at the bit, so off you go.
I really wanted to really comment and say that I think Portsmouth really did that whole week proud. You know, I was lucky enough to go to the BBC concert they also hosted, which was played a week later on Sunday on the radio, and it was just really brilliant. You know, and I'm really happy to see so much filming as well. But overall, I just think as a city we represented, and that particular the event, and especially. As I said before, and I think that as you pointed out, the only thing I would have said is I would like more kids from different schools from across the city at that event. There was a lot of empty seats, and that was really a real shame.
Yeah, just on that, there were a number of schools who had accepted the invitation to come and had seat allocations and who didn't arrive on the day. And that can be due to, because of it probably more likely if they didn't arrive on the day, down to chaperoning numbers. If they didn't have the appropriate number of people, and we know now, because it's making the news, but it was almost certainly happening over a month ago, was the recent re-emergence of a new COVID strain has been knocking a lot of people out. So we think that's what happened. But certainly there were invitations, and the total number of school children from Portsmouth invited was 850 who'd accepted. But every school in the city had an invitation extended to them, so there are just reasons why some can and can't come. But I agree, it was disappointing that they couldn't be there on the day. Mary, did you?
Can't say enough how fantastic this whole thing was. In fact, I've never seen such a good project, actually, with so much encompassed in it. So, well done.
Oh, take that back to the rest of the team, Ross. Excellent feedback, which I completely agree with. There was one event that's not mentioned in here, but Russell mentioning the BBC concert, which was obviously separate as well, reminded me of it. The Kings hosted a D-Day gala on the Sunday night at the end of the week. And it was a mixture of celebration and commemoration that was perfectly pitched. Naval Base Commanders spoke, but there was somebody from serving personnel from LGBTQ plus backgrounds and BAME backgrounds. So it was a very inclusive event, and it obviously finished off with a rousing rendition of Rule Britannia, Land of Hope and Glory and God Save the King. It's with lots of flag waving, but you know, about 1,400 people turned up for that event, and they pulled it together in about 6 weeks with a really first-class orchestra and a brilliant orchestra conductor who really engaged with the audience, and it was the perfect way to finish off what had been a really outstanding and exceptional week. But another example of people just getting on and doing what they do really, really well and just organising off their own back. So, and again, that went out as the BBC concert was going out. We were all sat in the King's doing it in real life again. So, but it was absolutely fantastic event, and a lovely way to finish off what had been to me one of the best showcases of Portsmouth that we've had, and a more positive one after some of the people who came in 5 years previously who we might not have wanted to. So thanks again to everyone involved, and we'll look forward to the next update, which will be the evaluation of how everything turned out with the school visits, etc. later in the year. Okay, anything else? No? Everybody happy? Okay, in that case, that concludes the business for today's meeting, Lisa, and members, thank you very much for your input, and officers, thank you for presenting.